Welcome back, everyone. It's Jason Shad here with Team SSI. Today we're going to have some fun comparing the Porsche Ruf CTR Yellowbird on both Project Cars and Assetto Corsa. The track we've chosen for this is a purposefully done one, the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife. In 1989, Stefan Rosser immortalized this track car combination by strapping an onboard camera and driving through these dangerous streets in the then newly designed CTR Yellowbird. So stay tuned, turn the volume up, and listen for that beautiful Porsche Flat 6 music.
Okay, this is Project Cars in the Porsche Ruf CTR Yellowbird. Volume's not very high, so let me fix that a little bit. Okay, so I guess the first thing I notice here is the beautiful rendering. So much detail with this track. I can also tell I haven't touched the profiler for the Thrustmaster and the gain settings. And there's a significant kickback in the wheel. It does feel stiffer. I cannot feel that curb at all. So there's definitely some issues. I can hear the vibration of those curbs, but I can't feel it on the wheel. Yeah, nothing there. Wow. It does give you a lot of feedback to let you know that the car is starting to rotate. It's very nice with that. So I do like that quite a bit. So I'm going to do a quick comparison to see if we can feel first off that curb. That curb gave me a little bit of feedback, so I'm a little confused by that. Okay, let's go into the dirt. Okay, there's feedback there, but I can't really tell. The surface differential is almost exactly the same. It feels like the tarmac is the same as the grass, so I'm not sure if that's the game or the settings that we have, but we're just running on a default setting. We haven't done anything to the graphics or any of the profiles. Wow, this scenery is just, yeah, beautiful scenery. A lot of detail. Okay, so as far as the car is concerned, steering is stiff. It has that typical Porsche porpoisey front end. All of the weight in the rear. So you get a bit of an understeer on corner entry, and then a lot of oversteer on corner exit, simply because this car has over 500 horsepower. Okay, so without those cues of the curbing, I can't really know how far to push it on the apex. So that's a big negative for me. For entertainment purposes, I think that there's nothing like this. But as far as striving for realism, I can't feel that curb, so I'm having difficulty finding the limit of what is possible. No feeling there. On the tarmac, though, I am feeling a fair amount of bumps and slippage. So, anticipating and using the feel to give me the proper cues that the car is starting to lose traction is very good. I would probably use this in training individuals for throttle rotation. And certainly for entertainment purposes. Assetto Corsa in the Porsche Ruf Yellowbird. And right off the bat, I can see that the graphics are very different indeed. The engine sounds like a turbocharged engine. That's confusing to me. Oh my goodness, tons of feedback. I'm getting a lot of subtle nuances in the road. It actually feels like I'm on asphalt surface. So let's get near one of these curbs. Oh yeah, instant feedback. That is what we need. Okay, let's go into the grass area and see if we can feel a difference between the grass area. You can find a patch of grass over here. Okay. Well, not quite as detailed as I would have liked it. I would have thought it would have felt more slippery. All right, let's get on the power a little bit here and see what the handling characteristics feel like. Again, that engine note is confusing to me. So it definitely has the similar characteristics in the chassis feel, but it's actually quite different in the sense that this feels actually a lot more balanced, which in my experience with the 911 is not necessarily the case. So this for sure feels like a more tuned chassis than the Project Cars version. It still has that characteristic of the porpoisey front end and that understeer, but it seems a lot more responsive. I can feel the pitch left and right more. What I can't feel as much as in Project Cars are those cues in the steering wheel that enable me to anticipate a throttle rotation slide. See, even that rotation right there that I had a little slight rotation under braking, I couldn't feel that. I had to look for it visually. Whereas in Project Cars, there would be a tug in the opposite direction on the wheel. So in that sense, I think Project Cars has a little bit of a step up in terms of the feedback and the feel. I can definitely feel a lot of the bumps much more in detail with this Project Cars. But I will have to say that the graphics are very old school, or I shouldn't say very old school, but they're a little bit more old school, as the shadowing is nice, but nowhere near the detail of the shadowing of Project Cars. The shadowing in Project Cars was crisp, it was very dynamic, whereas this feels a lot more static and a lot less detail. There's a lot of detail in the windshield, and that's good. I like that. Ooh, I'm getting a definite window glare. I should also mention that we've set up both of the sims to be at 9 a.m. So it should have, if everyone put their thinking caps on correctly, we should be looking at very similar shadowing because of the time of day being similar. See, I'm not getting enough feedback cues to anticipate that slide, or at least to react to it properly. See that? I'm just flicking it because I'm hearing the engine and I'm hearing the wheels start to spin, and I'm seeing visually in my peripheral that the horizon is changing. But there's not as much feedback. I drive Assetto Corsa quite a bit, so it may just be that this particular car has that issue, because there are definitely other cars that give a lot better feedback. Overall, I would have to say that if I had a choice in terms of pleasure to drive, I would probably drive the Porsche Ruf Yellowbird on Project Cars through the Nordschleife, because it just feels so much more immersive visually.
Okay, so that concludes our comparison of the Porsche Ruf Yellowbird, a CTR, on both project cars and Assetto Corsa. We've compiled a list of the top questions that we've been asked by our audience, and so we'll get to that right now then. So the graphics is pretty obvious. The project cars had the superior graphics, hands down. That's not to say that Assetto Corsa was by any means antiquated. Just fine details, particularly the shadows and some of the really fine granular details of the grass and the tarmac. But definitely Project Cars was the winner there. Yeah, there was pretty significant differences in the force feedback. You know, if I had to really think about what is the most important thing for myself, and it's just a personal preference, is I want maximum information to be fed to me through the wheel. And for that, I would have to say Assetto Corsa was absolutely the winner there. Project Cars did have some good feel with the bumps and some granular feeling in the asphalt, but again, those curbs, I couldn't feel anything. When I went into the grass or to the dirt, again, it felt the same as it did on the asphalt. So for entertainment purposes, that's probably not going to be a problem, but if you're striving for realism and really trying to find the limit, it's not going to be possible with Project Cars utilizing that type of feedback. So yes, Assetto Corsa was the winner there. Yeah, that was pretty confusing to me. I'm not sure if we loaded something else in the sound file, but the Project Cars sound was perfect. It was beautiful. It sounded exactly as I remember the Porsche 911 in the videos that I saw, or Porsche the Yellowbird at the Nürburgring from Stefan Roser. The Assetto Corsa engine sound file sounded like a turbocharged 6-cylinder, so it was very confusing, and definitely Project Cars was the winner there. Yeah, overall it looked very similar. Again, the shadowing difference and the detail that Project Cars had made it look a little different, but as far as the time of day and the glaring and the different shadows passing across the windshield, looked very similar. Well, again, I've done a lot of work on Assetto Corsa and Project Cars in other cars, just not necessarily this car. So for this particular car, I would prefer Project Cars for throttle rotation because there was a lot of cues that were being given to me on the steering wheel that I could react to, versus having to react to visual cues and other things that is in Assetto Corsa. So I would probably prefer Project Cars. Well, I would think that training would be an overall experience. So in training, we're not so much focused on the beautiful graphics. I think that's more for an entertainment purpose. I want maximum feel for training because we're training for the real world, and we want to develop our muscles for reacting towards the different nuances in the road, the curbing, and how a car is going to react if you use the curb too aggressively, and things of that nature. There's also the shifting component that we have to look at, and Project Cars is just really super easy to shift. I could basically bang gears all day long. I didn't have to heel and toe. I did just out of habit, but in Assetto Corsa it doesn't allow you to do that. You know, it's going to grind the gears, and it really requires you to use the same coordination. So for training purposes, I would use Assetto Corsa. Well, overall experience, again, it probably depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it for entertainment, I would give it probably a 9, because you can't get, I'm not aware of a simulation software that's out there that is superior to that. If you were using it for training purposes, I would probably give it a 6. I don't see much benefit other than the throttle rotation that you can get from the lack of feel that's out there. Yeah, again, it depends on what you're using it for. For training purposes, that's my go-to simulation. It provides everything you need. So I would give it, for a training purposes, a 9. You know, there are some things that I would prefer that it would improve on, but overall I would give it a 9. For entertainment purposes, I would probably give it a 6. Just not quite there. So that is pretty much it in terms of the questions. Overall, my thoughts are, I think you really can't compare these two. It's not comparing apples to apples. It's really the only proper comparison you can do is you have to know what you want to get out of it. What are your goals? And if your goals is for entertainment, Project Cars. If your goal is for realism and training your body to react properly to a racetrack in the real world, Assetto Corsa. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and we'll look to see you next time.